There is a powerful truth that many people go their entire lives without realizing. You are already chosen. You don't have to hustle for approval. You don't need to achieve a certain status before you become worthy. From the moment you took your first breath, there was already a divine assignment placed on your life. That wasn't a coincidence, that was calling. Being chosen doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you've always made the right decisions or walked the straight path. In fact, the very opposite is often true. Some of the most powerfully used people in history were the most broken, the most overlooked, the most unlikely, and that's exactly what makes the choosing so radical. It's not based on credentials, it's based on purpose. When you understand that you are already chosen, your mindset begins to shift. You stop operating from a place of desperation and start living from a place of identity. You stop asking, "Am I good enough?" and you start declaring, "I've already been called." That doesn't mean you stop growing or striving to become better. It means you stop shrinking to fit into spaces God never assigned to you. You stop chasing people who were never meant to see your value, and you stop explaining your worth to those committed to misunderstanding you. Think about it like this. A chosen person doesn't wait for circumstances to be perfect. A chosen person steps out even when the path is unclear, because the calling speaks louder than the fear. That calling isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it whispers in the middle of a storm, "Keep going." Sometimes it shows up in the smallest doors, doors other people ignored. But when you walk through them, something begins to shift. But here's the thing, just because you're chosen doesn't mean life will be easy. In fact, being chosen often comes with pressure, responsibility, and a need to develop character before the calling is fully revealed. That's why the journey matters. That's why the process can't be skipped. Because the choosing is not just about favor, it's about preparation. The world will try to convince you that you have to compete to be significant, that you have to be louder, faster, richer, more visible. But the truth is, significance is not something you earn. It's something you awaken to, and once you awaken to the fact that your steps are ordered, that your pain has purpose, and that your dreams are not random, everything changes. You walk different, you speak different, you think different, because deep down you know you didn't choose this, you were chosen for this. When you embrace that, you stop disqualifying yourself based on your past. You stop waiting for the world to crown you before you move. You realize the crown was already placed on your head the moment you were given life. That realization doesn't make you arrogant, it humbles you. It anchors you, it reminds you that no matter what happens, no matter who leaves, no matter what door closes, your value is not negotiable. One of the most powerful acts you can take in your life, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, is learning to let go of resistance. Resistance is often subtle. It doesn't always scream in your face. Sometimes it hides behind overthinking, perfectionism, fear of failure, or even pretending that you're just being realistic. But make no mistake, resistance is a barrier. It's the invisible wall between where you are and where you're meant to be. Many people ask, "Why hasn't my life changed?" Or "Why do I keep feeling stuck?" The answer, more often than not, is not that you lack the talent, the opportunity, or even the faith. It's that you're holding on to things that are keeping your hands too full to receive what's next. That's resistance. Resistance is when your spirit is ready for elevation, but your mind is still trying to stay safe. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means getting out of your own way. It means surrendering control, not because you're weak, but because you understand that divine strength doesn't always show up through force. Sometimes it shows up through flow. You can't flow when you're clenched up with anxiety. You can't flow when you're obsessing over outcomes, trying to manipulate every moment into your idea of perfection. You've got to loosen your grip and trust the process. What are you resisting right now? Are you resisting rest because you've been conditioned to equate productivity with worth? Are you resisting love because you're still holding on to past pain? Are you resisting stepping out in faith because you're more loyal to your comfort zone than your calling? Resistance is tricky because it can wear the mask of logic. You'll tell yourself, I'm just being cautious, when really you're being controlled by fear. You'll say, I'm waiting for the right time, when what you really mean is, I don't want to be uncomfortable. But growth is never convenient. It's always disruptive. That's why letting go isn't easy. It takes courage to release what feels familiar, even when it's no longer serving you. Spiritually, resistance shows up when we pray for guidance but ignore the nudge. When we ask for clarity but dismiss every uncomfortable prompt. When we beg for blessings but hold on to bitterness. God doesn't force blessings. He offers them, but they require space. They require openness. You can't ask for overflow while clinging to lack. You can't ask for new doors while refusing to shut the old ones. Letting go of resistance is about trusting that the unseen is still working in your favor. That just because you don't have all the answers doesn't mean you're not being led. That your worth is not measured by how much you control, but by how much you're willing to trust. It's about creating room for peace, room for healing, room for something greater than what you've imagined. Faith is not a feeling. It's not wishful thinking, blind optimism, or simply hoping everything works out. Faith is the key, the access point to transformation, breakthrough, and purpose. Without faith, you're locked out of the very things that are meant for you. With it, doors swing open that logic says should stay shut. Faith is what moves you when evidence tells you to stay still. It's what pushes you forward when fear whispers, turn back. Faith doesn't wait for certainty. It acts, it believes, and it stretches, even when nothing around you seems to be changing. And that's where the power lies, in moving while you're still unsure, in speaking life while you're surrounded by silence, in planting seeds while others are too afraid to get their hands dirty. Many people live their lives trying to calculate every step before they take one. They say, show me the outcome and then I'll believe. But faith flips that on its head and says, believe first, and then the outcome will follow. Faith isn't about control. It's about alignment. It's saying, I may not know how, but I know who. It's deciding to walk through the fog, trusting that the road will reveal itself as you move forward. People often think they need more resources, more connections, or more time. But what they really need is more faith, because when you activate faith, you activate vision. You begin to see beyond the natural. You stop settling for what you see and start reaching for what's possible. Faith expands your thinking, it enlarges your capacity, it trains your spirit to believe before you receive. But let's be clear, real faith isn't comfortable. It's not always clean or easy. Sometimes faith will lead you right into uncertainty. Sometimes it will ask you to let go of what feels safe. Sometimes it will require you to speak life into situations that feel dead. And yet, it is in those exact moments where faith does its greatest work, not in the absence of struggle, but in the middle of it. Faith is not about denying reality. It's about declaring a greater truth in spite of it. You can acknowledge the facts and still choose faith. You can see the storm and still believe in the calm, because faith is not rooted in circumstances, it's rooted in character. And when you trust the character of God, you stop letting circumstances dictate your expectations. Faith is what allows you to rise when you've fallen, to keep praying when you feel unheard, to keep building when no one is clapping. It's the inner knowing that something bigger is at play, that your steps are not wasted, that your waiting is not empty. Every act of faith is a seed. Every word spoken in belief is an echo in the unseen that shapes what's to come. And the moment you understand that, the moment you stop measuring what you can do and start trusting what God can do through you, everything begins to shift. One of the greatest lies you can ever believe is that your past disqualifies you from your purpose. That because of what you've done, what you've been through, or where you come from, you're no longer eligible for what God has in store. But the truth is this: your past doesn't disqualify you, it qualifies you. It shapes you, it builds you, and in the hands of God, it becomes the foundation for your testimony. Too many people live in self-imposed prisons, shackled by shame and regret. They replay old mistakes like a broken record, convincing themselves they've gone too far, failed too deeply, or missed too many chances. But purpose isn't fragile. It doesn't crack under pressure or vanish because of detours. Purpose knows how to work with broken pieces. In fact, some of the most powerful people in history had the messiest backgrounds. That's not an accident. It's a pattern. Your past was never meant to be a life sentence. It was meant to be a classroom. Every setback taught you something. Every failure revealed a layer of strength you didn't know you had. Every heartbreak exposed something that needed healing, and healing is never wasted. It's the proof that even your darkest days can become part of something meaningful. Some people think they have to hide their past in order to be used by God. They think if people knew the full story, they wouldn't be accepted, let alone respected. But the opposite is often true. It's not your perfection that people connect with, it's your authenticity, it's your scars, it's your journey. When you embrace your past and let it fuel your growth instead of your guilt, you become a living example of what redemption looks like in real life. There's a reason your story includes struggle. There's a reason you've walked through things others haven't. It's because there's someone out there who needs to know it's possible to come out on the other side. And they won't believe it from someone who's never been through anything. They'll believe it from you because you've lived it, you've wrestled with doubt, you've fought through shame, you've stood at the edge of giving up, and somehow you didn't. But here's what matters most. Your past doesn't intimidate God. He's not surprised by it. He's not disgusted by it. He's not done with you because of it. If anything, he's already woven it into the plan. What you thought would disqualify you, he's planning to use as your launch pad. What the enemy meant for harm, God can flip and turn into healing, into power, into influence, into purpose. You don't have to pretend it didn't happen. You don't have to erase your history to step into your destiny. You just have to stop letting your past define your limits. The truth is, God does his best work through people with a story, not a perfect story, but a redeemed one. What you expect determines what you pursue, how you prepare, and what you perceive. Expectation creates opportunity because it shapes your mindset long before the opportunity ever shows up. Expectation is not wishful thinking. It is the inner conviction that something is on the way, that something is already in motion, and that your role is to be ready for it. Too many people walk through life bracing for disappointment instead of anticipating breakthrough. They lower their expectations in an effort to protect themselves from pain, not realizing that low expectations are often self-fulfilling. When you expect nothing, you prepare for nothing, and when you prepare for nothing, you're rarely ready to receive anything. But the reverse is also true. When you expect more, you think bigger, you notice more, you prepare with intention, you show up differently. Expectation aligns your behavior with your belief. If you truly believe something good is coming, you start to live like it. You speak with confidence, you move with purpose, and you see doors where others only see walls. Your internal atmosphere begins to shift the way you engage with the world. It's not about forcing outcomes. It's about aligning yourself with the possibility of them. You can always tell when someone is living with expectation. They don't walk. They carry themselves like they are on assignment. They're not frantic, but they are focused. They're not waiting for perfect conditions. They're creating the environment within themselves for opportunity to grow. Because when you live with expectation, you become a magnet for momentum. People are drawn to your energy. Opportunities seem to come to you not because of chance, but because your preparation met possibility. It's not just about hoping something will happen. It's about being positioned for when it does. A person with expectation shows up to the interview prepared. They show up to the day with purpose. They treat small beginnings with the same respect they'd give to the finish line. Because expectation doesn't wait for evidence, it becomes the evidence. Expectation also changes how you respond to delay. When you expect something good, you don't interpret waiting as rejection. You see it as development. You understand that what's coming might take time, but that time is preparing you for the size of the blessing. It's growing your capacity, it's refining your character, and because you expect it to come, you stay ready. Spiritually, expectation is a form of faith in action. It's telling God, I trust you enough to live like your promise is already true. It's waking up and making space for miracles. It's putting your hands to the work while keeping your heart open to surprise. It's knowing that the blessing might not come in the way you imagined, but it will come in the way you need. When you expect more, you draw more. You operate with a different standard. You speak differently, think differently, and walk differently. You start creating openings in your life simply by believing that they can exist. Expectation doesn't just change your outlook, it changes what's available to you. There's a significant difference between being blessed and being a blessing. One stops with you, the other flows through you. That's the principle behind this truth. Be a conduit, not a container. A container holds, a conduit releases. A container stores for self-preservation. A conduit channels for multiplication, and when you live as a conduit, you become a living, breathing extension of grace, favor, and purpose. Many people have been taught to pray for blessings, for increase, for open doors. But not everyone understands that blessings are not designed to stop at your doorstep. They are meant to be shared, to be transferred, to become the answer to someone else's prayer. The more you give, the more room you create. That's why some people feel stuck. They've become spiritual hoarders. They've received love, wisdom, provision, opportunity, but they've tried to store it instead of sowing it. When God blesses you, He's not just thinking about you. He's thinking about the people connected to you, your family, your community, the stranger you'll meet at just the right time. You're not the end goal. You're part of a divine chain reaction. And the moment you stop releasing what's been placed in your hands, you break that flow. You become a dam instead of a river. Being a conduit means that when peace comes into your life, you share it with others. When you're given insight, you use it to uplift someone else. When doors open for you, you hold them open for the next person. And this isn't about pretending to be perfect or having it all together. It's about understanding that everything you've overcome, everything you've gained, everything you've survived, has a purpose beyond your own benefit. Some of the most powerful impact you'll ever have won't come from what you do for yourself, it'll come from what you do for others with what you've been given. Generosity isn't just about money, it's about time. Encouragement, presence, listening, lifting someone up when you yourself are still in the process of being lifted. That's what being a conduit looks like, pouring out even when you're still healing because you know the source is steady and the supply won't run dry. The world will try to convince you to protect what's yours, to hold on tightly, to look out for number one. But spiritual power works differently. The more you give, the more comes back to you, not always in the way you expect, but always in the way you need. You begin to see that blessings aren't possessions to be held, they're energy to be moved. You're not just here to collect experiences, wisdom, or success. You're here to distribute light. You're here to reflect the abundance that's been placed inside you. And when you live like a conduit, you shift the atmosphere, you create ripple effects. You stop looking at what you have as mine and start asking, how can this serve? As we reflect on these truths, remember this, you are already chosen and the blessings meant for you are ready to flow. But they won't come if you hold on too tightly to resistance. Faith is the key that unlocks every door, and your past, no matter how difficult, does not disqualify you, it prepares you. When you expect great things, you position yourself to receive great things. And finally, blessing is not meant to be stored up or guarded. It is meant to be passed on, making you a conduit for good in this world. So today, make the decision to open your heart fully, to step forward with courage and faith, and to allow the blessing that has been waiting for you to enter and transform your life. Blessings are not just gifts, they are invitations to a greater purpose. Receive them, live them, and share them, because when you do, you don't just change your own story, you become part of a legacy of hope and abundance. And